wondering, who are gardeners in our community? You guys? Yes, yes. Awesome. There is some talk about doing a cooking night with. So we were looking at the passage. We're looking at the letter of Jude this morning. But before I get into that, I want to ask a question that I think some of you would resonate. Here, loves a good deal. Whoa. So you may not be gardeners, but you sure are shoppers. So yeah. Everybody loves a good deal. So a couple of months ago, I went to China with my mother. Discovered that I'm in desperate need of a good pair of walking shoes. Because everywhere you go, you're walking on hard pavement. Even in nature, it's hard. They were killing me. So yeah, I need a good pair of walking shoes. However, I'm also, a bit financially constrained because I'm starting school. So a few days ago, I saw this ad on Instagram for a major retailer, a well-known retailer, and they were having this massive sale. And I was like, this is awesome. The sale was phenomenal. And that included, lo and behold, shoes. And so what I did, I clicked on the website, and I picked out a couple pairs of shoes that I was thinking like walking, and then in the wintertime when it's raining, waterproof, they're leather. And then I thought, I could start my Christmas shopping. And so then I selected a few more items, not for me, right? No, I'm thinking about other people, of course. So I selected a few bags, and then when you buy things online, then you have to go to this other section where you input your information, your name, your mail address, and your card information. And I hit confirm. I thought, strange. Why is it an error? And the message said something like, this email address has already been used, like you already have an account. Cover my so-called password for this retailer. Again, error, must try again and again, and then it says, we sent you a new email. So this adage is true. If it's too good to be true, then it probably isn't. So I knew immediately that something was wrong because funds were transferred and I never got a confirmation of a sale. Then I called my credit card company, and I also tried notifying the retailer, like the real retailer, and also tried reporting it to a scam website. Anything that I can do to take the fraudulent website down and prevent other people from falling for those same scams. So for a moment, I was feeling unsafe. But once I was able to get some assurance from the credit protected, I felt better. Never been scammed, cheated, fell for fake news. And if you're like me, you probably felt foolish because trust was broken. Your trust in something that you thought was real was broken. So I felt a mixture of embarrassment and shame and, how could I fall in for this? And then I had to actually stop and consider, why did I fall for this? Why did I fall for fake stuff? This is not usually what I do. So I had to admit that I was vulnerable to this scam. In the first place, I was stressed, and I was looking for distraction. And the internet is a dangerous place for distraction. The reality is that I should have been working on my sermon instead of online shopping. So that was the first vulnerability. Second vulnerability was that I had financial constraints. Deal was really enticing. And so being stressed, looking for a deal, this made me vulnerable. And I didn't pay attention, or the fake website address, the URL. I did pay attention to the profile name on Instagram. I could have checked it out. I could have taken this. This is how most frauds and scams become successful. They exploit or take advantage of people, whether it's online dating, a lottery prize, a business investment, those phone calls in Mandarin saying that you're in trouble with the government. These schemes, when people already have told themselves something like, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, or I'm not safe. Scammers offer a quick fix solution to make a false sense of security, to lure you in, trusting them. So the letter of Jude is a sermon-y type letter that was urgently written to Christians, Christ followers, of certain scammers that you can see them as an ancient form of a scam alert. False teachers spreading false teachings about Jesus. We don't know exactly what they said, what they taught, but their teachings consist of two main ideas. The idea is that they denied the sovereignty of Jesus, and the second idea is that they denied any sort of consequence to sin. So the basic message was from these false teachers is that now that God's grace has set you free, now that God's grace has set you free, you're free to do whatever you want. Well, this gets Jude pretty angry. And tell by the examples that he uses and the language that he uses. And we often get really hung up by these strange references to the Old Testament and even references outside of Scripture. But I think overall that this distracts us from Jude's overall warning not to listen to these scammers. The truth is, grace has set you free, and you've done nothing to deserve it, but that doesn't or license to sin. As Craig Keener puts it, biblical grace means forgiveness and the power to overcome sin, not permission to act immorally. Well, these scammers were teaching the wrong response to God's grace. When I was a little kid, I still distinctly remember this birthday party I was invited to. A friend in my class had this big birthday party. There were students from the class I were in and also people from outside of the class. It was fairly big, and she got a lot of presents, loads. And there was always the gift opening time. I don't know, is that still done at birthday parties? You open gifts? Well, back then, you open gifts. Like after the birthday cake, sit on the circle, and the birthday person opens the gift. Well, I don't remember who was there. I don't even remember how old I was or when it was. All I remember was this girl's reaction when she was opening the gift. What she did was this. She'll get a gift, open it, all excited, and she's like, thank you. Next. And she did that. Did it? Oh, thanks. Next. And to me, as a good Chinese girl, I was like, how can you do that? How can you just say next? Like, literally say next for your gift. Because if my mom saw that, she would have, it was this. And then when she opened my gift, I don't remember what it was. I just felt so excited. It was like mattered that I was there, basically. And he gives you a gift. Appropriate response is thankfulness. Appropriate response is to care for what's been given, not assume that there's more to come. So these teachers were teaching the wrong response to God's grace. The message to the church was, don't trust these people. They're not teaching you the way of life. Trust God, who's able to keep you. Don't trust these people who don't appreciate what's been given. Trust God. But what does it mean to be kept for Christ? Well, one idea behind the word is preservation. Hold or keep something in its original state. I noticed something when it came to food. Not only that food was good, But I noticed immediately how quickly food spoils. From Alberta, the climate's dry, and actually you can keep a loaf of bread, no problem, for a week on the counter. Vancouver, it's what, 2 days before it becomes... You know that there are very few foods that we can simply leave out without worry. And so you have to, like drying, salting, or we add preservatives, chemical preservatives, kept from spoiling. But what about the environment? My favorite sites to visit often when I travel or even in town are wildlife preserves. Sometimes there are pictures from the George Rifle located in Delta. And it is fantastic. If you ever want a quick trip out in nature, so sanctuaries or preservations are areas of land or water that's set aside from development or industrial use. They allow wildlife or vegetation to grow without any harm, undisturbed by humans. These areas are kept for nature and wildlife so that they can thrive. Something in its original state requires much care and attention. It also requires protection from the world's largest rainforest and is home to millions of people. I think it's estimated 30 laws for protecting the Amazon promised to open the Amazon for more development. And because of that, and previous deforestation, Amazon is now burning at an astonishing rate. Nearly 40,000 fires across the Amazon is now currently burning. And this is an increase of 80%. Last year alone, the increase. The last time it was at this level was in 2013. The world is concerned because the Amazon land and also protected marine land, but quite a bit less. 11% of Canada's total land is protected, and without laws to protect it, without protection, I have no doubt that the natural environment would be exploited. Efforts to preserve and to protect our food is an effort to keep them for the future. Unless you're like my mom, who keeps things in the freezer for eternity. But the idea is that you want to preserve and protect nature because it's vital for future generations. Without forests, you won't have clean air and stable ecosystems, and etc. Valuable from destruction. And this is the ethic of conservation. Don't want to wait until it's used up, because by then it will be too late. It is, as the songwriter Joni Mitchell says, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? But the letter of Jude tells us that faith is precious. It shouldn't be taking it for granted. Nor tells us, don't follow after these false teachers who would have you believe following Jesus requires no restraint, no change in your life, no sense of a continual dependence on God's grace. Offering a false sense of security. They were offering what Dietrich Bonhoeffer calls cheap grace. He coins it as, cheap grace is the preaching of forgiveness without requiring repentance. Baptism without church discipline. Communion without confession. Cheap grace is without discipleship. Is grace without discipleship. Cross, grace without Jesus Christ. Living. Grace is convenient, which is why it's so attractive. You don't have to do anything. It won't cost you anything. And so it is so appealing to anyone who doesn't want to stand out or requires our care and attention. Otherwise, we'll be susceptible to false ideology. Practices like prayer, reflection, sharing, giving, and serving all help the practices that they help to strengthen, build our faith by keeping ourselves in God's love requires ordering our other loves. It requires prioritizing God's love above all else. In order to feel safe in any relationship, you need to know that there's commitment. I actually heard this at Ultimate recently. In order to achieve better passes in Ultimate, you need to commit to receiving it. Humanity is at its best when it fully commits itself to something good and something beautiful. Reflect God who created us in his image because he fully committed himself to us. God promised to save us, and he promised to be with us. However, all that does not mean you're not at risk or in danger in the present. Following Jesus will always entail risk because living is risky. The only way to be safe is to be all other life. And thanks to the internet, we have people closeting themselves from human contact. It's gone to a point now where certain societies celebrate a marriage to a fictional character. And not only do we have people who physically remove themselves, but they also emotionally remove themselves. These are other people like objects. Emotionally isolated people play it safe by never forming real relationships. That way, you never have to be vulnerable. Point. What would be the point of living? God preserves you for Christ. You have to live in this world, and therefore we're exposed to all sorts of danger. That grace points us to him. All of life points us to his as a little baby plant. Contrast, the false teachers are described as clouds without rain. It is God who is able to keep you from falling and to present you love which protects you. And it is in God where we must find our security and identity. Otherwise, we'll be blown and tossed by the wind and uprooted by evil. We'll make poor decisions and find ourselves $171 short and no shoes. But on the serious side, I would say this. I've always had a hard time speaking about God's protection. Don't have an answer to why that is. And if I try to answer it, then I do violence to that person's experience. Suffering is the greatest cause of doubt. Those times, it's not judgment. I don't have any answers to why people suffer. But I can say what suffering doesn't mean. It doesn't mean you've been abandoned. That is kept in a protected land, not abandoned or forsaken. All things are made available for that tree to thrive. Laws are created to protect that tree. That tree is given space to grow. An opportunity to weather the storm. Don't squander it for lesser things. God and only God is able to keep you. And he's holding you. With those of you who like to continue to ponder these thoughts. How do you keep your relationship? What practices help you to maintain your marriage? Care through our parents. Showing your care by the care of our friends. Lord, I deeply believe that without your presence, we are worse off. We ask that you would continue to keep us in you.